Good afternoon from Copenhagen, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon. As I've been introduced, my name is Rose Mwebaza. I'm the director of the Climate Technology Center and Network. This center is the operational arm of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC, and we are hosted by UNEP. I'm very pleased to moderate the fourth session in the Network of African Women Environmentalists that is focusing on circular economy under the Earth Science Cafes. The purpose of these Earth Science Cafes really is to connect people with science, as the name suggests, that as ordinary people, in fact, there's a lot we can do in terms of our work and daily engagement to contribute not only to the discussion and the policies our governments make, but also the actions and choices that we make individually. You will hear that from our keynote speaker, Philip. You'll hear that from Sarah, and you'll hear about that from Dominic. I'll provide just a short context to why, as the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, we are very proud to be associated with this event. As the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in 2020, we've started supporting several African countries on circular economy, in particular Zambia, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Kenya, Mauritius, and Seychelles. And we are going to focus on supporting circularity actions relating to waste and technologies that attract investments and create jobs in the waste sector in Africa. We chose the waste sector in Africa because this sector, in fact, has the potential to contribute $8 billion per annum to African economies through job creation. But we've noticed that there's very little understanding in our governments, largely, but also the private sector, about the business opportunities that exist in circularity and the number of technologies that are available to actualize these technologies. So we are working with the member states in Africa to provide that necessary technological support and the options of technologies that are available, but also support for incentives through the right policy and legislative frameworks. So I'm very pleased to join you today, and I would like to start off our conversation by introducing our keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker today is Philip Thigo. He has a distinguished career, and I'll just say a few things about him before I invite him to speak. Philip is the director, he's a senior director for Africa for the Thunderbird School of Global Management and a senior consultant for the UNDP Regional Bureau for Africa, leading the Fourth Industrial Revolution work. And he's also a member of the World Economic Forum's Global Council on Global Public Goods for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So he's really the right man to talk to us today. I would also like to highlight the fact that in 2018, Philip was recognized as one of the world's 100 most influential persons in digital government. He's worked extensively in Africa for his government in Kenya as advisor to the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, where he led some groundbreaking work on open data for Big Four food security agenda. He has also worked for the African Union chairperson and the African Union's governance architecture, where he led the first ever digital engagement by the African Union. I could tell you a lot of things about Philip, but I would like to give him an opportunity to present his keynote to us today, and also to tell us a little bit more about the work that he's doing. Philip, you're very welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Rose, for the very kind words and introduction. As Dr. Rose has mentioned, I basically have been working around technology and data for quite some time, and it's quite interesting when she started introducing to say that African governments and businesses are not necessarily understanding the value. So when you say value, of course, that's data. And so then how do we ensure that people understand value, but also understand that the circular economy, in my view, was basically built for the African continent. So I think a couple of pointers as we look at why I say this. the fourth industrial revolution, for those who do not know, is basically the stage where we are at now in terms of economic development. The first, of course, was the one that was pegged and driven by steam, and we know in terms of the mindset of the circular economy what that meant. There's a lot of inefficiencies around that. There's a lot of destruction of the environment because steam requires literally burning either coal or forest. The second revolution coming thereby in the 19th century was very much around electricity, but also how that catalyzed or precipitated kind of mass production. And the minute you say mass production in the mindset of the circular economy, of course, we know what that means. It's simply basically that was a period when we started getting into Anthropocene, right? So the period where human activity was very much detrimental to the environment. Come the third industrial revolution, as we think, and this is funny perspectives, that we think we're getting better, we're actually getting worse. Coming into the third industrial revolution, of course, with the onset of ICT, so that's information communication technologies, we also saw how we started basically driving carbon emissions into the atmosphere. The climate started becoming warmer simply because we are now more connected, we're communicating more, we're producing more. And so a consumerist or consumption culture basically started emerging out of that. Now comes the fourth industrial revolution, where we are seeing a fusion of the biological and the physical world, where the digital and the biological actually has fused. And so the problem is that where we are right now is everything is very much at an accelerated pace. And so we were producing more, now we're producing at a very accelerated pace. I always tell people that the iPhone was basically built in 2008. I'm sure we think it was with us for more than 100 years, but that's just the rapid pace. We are at an iPhone 12 right now. The iPhone 12 is potentially 400 to 500 more powerful than the computer that sent a man to the moon. And you can imagine what that means, right? And so I think we are seeing how that fourth industrial revolution is basically transforming how we live, work, and communicate. It's permeating in every area or sphere of life. The trends, thank you so much, Sheila, for this. The trends, I think, as we've seen, is those key four trends, right? So digitization, I think if you can go into the trends page, digitization, smartization, thank you so much, integration and virtualization. And that basically means that everything is expressed in terms of data, as I mentioned. Everything is basically integrated. Somehow everything is smart. So we're hearing intelligent systems, right? So I think a lot of us are hearing issues around artificial intelligence, robotics, virtual reality, and this is what is shaping our interactions. Next slide, please. Basically, then I think when you look at those characteristics, then it tells us that this revolution, because of the mixture of the cyber and the physical, and for those who understand the circular economy, then you know basically that the fourth industrial revolution is built around the circular economy. And so in terms of definition, I think from where I see it and around technology is that the circular economy is basically a new of how we design, make, and use things, but also understanding that we need to confine that within our planetary boundaries. We only have one planet, as we say it. And so how do we ensure that we do everything within our boundaries so that we're not doing everything with excesses? And basically the circular economy, and I'm sure Nawe has been talking about is basically a shift on how we design out waste and pollution, on how we keep products and materials in use for as much as we can. And finally, is how do we ensure that we regenerate our natural systems? And so when we look at that context and imagine the first, second, and third, we actually realize that we are in very much of a predatory economic model that is very linear. So it talks about extracting, creating, and disposing. And my worry is that at the moment, and I'm sure all of you know this, any electronic gadget that you have right now, you're probably not repairing it. You're probably disposing it and getting a new one. We are seeing less and less repair shops. When you look at the leading electronic companies and go to fast-moving consumer goods, is that there's really not much of a repair mindset, and neither is there very much a mindset around how will you use the same waste and plug it back as raw material. Being in Africa, food systems is something that I think is critical to us, right? So as much as we produce enough food globally for the world, 30% goes to waste. And yet 60% will need to produce 60% more than what we produce today, if at all we are to feed the sort of growing population, and at industrial scale. But even when we do this, the agricultural practices right now are depleting the soil. So how will we maintain this? And that tells you that I think the current economic model is resource intensive. And therefore, we see the impacts of this, whether it's in pollution of the air. I always tell people in Nairobi, our largest ailment in the city is actually respiratory. And that accounts to 80%. So if you combine 80% of respiratory diseases plus hand washing, we kind of taken care of our health system. So should we be thinking of a new economic model? And can technology enable this new economic model? And so the thing about the fourth industrial revolution and technology, of course, it helps us have a life cycle approach in terms of how do you ensure that you can be efficient in terms of production using very finite resources that we have. But then also, how do you also ensure that there's a place for everybody? Africa, we are largely smallholder. We talk about women. Women are the majority of the informal economy in Africa, which is about 85.8%. So how do you ensure that we can wield the fourth industrial revolution technologies? And we've seen the spread of mobile phones, right? We've been able to have financial inclusion without necessarily going through the industrial phase of getting people in the bank. We've been able to sort of increase our communication without necessarily going through doing fixed lines. So how do we ensure that then we leverage on this technology to ensure that we are as diverse and we're inclusive? And I'm glad that Dr. Rose had mentioned this. There's also an economic opportunity. So especially within the technology space, the global e-waste market, right? So waste coming out of technology is pegged at around $41.97 billion last year, anticipated to be raised to about $102 billion by 2027. So there's actually an opportunity to create wealth out of waste. So waste, basically, I think we kind of have to find another name for it in future. And so technology can accelerate this. We do not necessarily need to be resource intensive like our brothers in the West. Our industries are quite nascent and are not legacy. So we can quickly transition into creating efficient economies through technology. And I think quickly, just examples of this, of course, because of artificial intelligence, it means we can be able to predict so that we cannot waste, and so we can prolong life of assets. When we talk about technologies like blockchain, it means we can enhance our traceability. We can understand supply chains and so reduce waste. With 3D printing, we can do spare parts quite easily. With artificial intelligence, it means we can actually accelerate the pace of how we innovate and design products without necessarily being so resource intensive, whether it's human or material, but then we can also build and optimize business models. So I think my takeaways are this. One is that I think Africa is poised for this. And I'm sure that the two panelists who are coming to speak will speak about this. That's why when you talk about innovation right now, especially around new economic models or production or productivity, it's always Africa. And so I think we can lead simply because we are poised for this revolution. But also we can do it more responsibly in that we are inclusive. And so that this revolution on the circular economy does not leave women behind. But how can we do this? So that's actually my next key slide. We need to think through investments. Nothing comes without investing. And so we need to invest in 5 areas. You cannot talk about technology, fourth industrial revolution, circular economy, and how to harness this revolution without data. We need to know where things are, and you need to be efficient about it. We need to also to understand how to innovate around energy, renewable and clean, of course, because we do not necessarily have to go through the other revolutions that we had to do big grids. We can do smart grids. The internet is something that we need to invest in simply because that's the engine of communication, but increasingly that's the engine of life. If COVID-19 have shown us anything, is that without internet, you probably will be not only disrupted, but dislocated. You'll totally be out. So how do we ensure that we invest in the internet that is affordable, accessible, but also of good quality and undisrupted? The other bit, of course, is capacity. Because of this rapid change and things moving very quickly, even through the circular economy, we need to skill, reskill, and upskill ourselves. How do we do that efficiently without the vagaries of the education system that does not respond or adapt to this context? Finally, I think is governance, and that's been a proverbial African challenge. But then how do you ensure that we have agile governance that is more facilitating than obstructing? And so I think for me, my last question is, are we ready for this new paradigm, even though we know Africa can lead? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Philip. It was very interesting listening to you. I was taking notes. I really liked the idea you put forward of the fusion between the biological and the digital. And this is really important because speaking in a world that is gripped by a global pandemic, I think we've all come to grips with the reality that, in fact, what is biological is digital. By destroying the ecosystems around us, we've enabled the emergence of these zoonotic diseases that have turned into global pandemics that have unwittingly accelerated, to use the word used in the fourth industrialization, our usage of digital platforms such as the one we are using for communication. So there's a real direct link to what we do and how the world evolves in response to our activities. And I think we need to be more conscious about the decisions we make. I also like, especially what you said on everything is expressed in terms of data these days. In fact, we've been told data is the new gold or oil, whatever you think your big money maker is. And so as Africa, for us to be able to harness that is very important, and to understand the importance of data going into the fourth industrial revolution is very key. And to look at circularity as a business opportunity, the numbers you've given are staggering. That right there is a business opportunity that we can't let go of in Africa. And lastly, just on some of the things you mentioned, the importance of agile governments. The fourth industrial revolution is such that change happens so rapidly that if our governments are not up to the task, we are going to be left behind. You're right, between 2008 and now, it seems like a lifetime away, but the level of transformation is so staggering that our governments have to be really agile and put in place the kind of incentives that are needed for people like Dominic and Sarah, who are going to share experiences to harness these opportunities that come. So there's a lot of interesting things you said there, and I want to thank you very much. We'll come back to you, but I want to start by giving an opportunity to Dominic now to really take us into examples of how we are practicing and harnessing the benefits of the circular economy in Africa. But I'll first introduce Dominic a little bit to our participants. Dominic is the CEO of Flexi Biogas Systems, which is an off-grid rural domestic thermal energy solution and a tool for the millions of rural homesteads seeking alternative sources of cooking. I will tell you why this is important, why the work Dominic does is important. Over 95% of the homesteads in the developing world, especially in Africa, rely on wood fuel for their domestic energy, and forests are being cut down at 40% a year. About 3 out of 4 families in Kenya, where Dominic comes from, depend on wood or charcoal to cook their daily meals, and the rate is even higher in rural areas. So using solid fuels like this for cooking increases indoor pollution, and the World Health Organization tells us that 14,000 300 Kenyans die annually from conditions linked to indoor pollution. In Africa, the numbers are not any different from those in Kenya. We are told that from the age of 3 up to the end of their working lives, rural women spend an average of 3 to 4 hours in search of and collecting wood. This translates into 1/3 of their daylight hours, 1/3 of all their domestic chores, and 1/3 of all their agricultural activities. We are losing a lot of valuable time from very productive members of our society. I give you this information to show you that the work that Dominic does on these biogas systems that provide off-grid rural domestic thermal energies are very important. So Dominic, I'll give you an opportunity. Please tell us about your work and what motivates you to focus on developing renewable energy systems.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And a pleasure to meeting you, Philip and Sarah and everyone. Where can I start? Let's talk about the where Africa is when it comes to the charcoal and the firewood, our energy. I mean, the energy is the basis of almost everything, all small businesses and what have you. You speak to any person from Europe about the days when they used to use coal. Okay, half of the people don't even remember, yeah? But those that do remember, if you tell them, do they remember how to light a coal stove? You know, they would say, why should I do that? You know, we've got piped gas now. You know, the whole of Europe has got natural gas piped to the doors. They don't even use LPG cylinders. The point is, it's a convenience. They have moved up the ladder and they're not going back. They will not go back to coal no matter what happens. If there's no gas, they'll switch to electric. They will not go back to coal. So that's one of the biggest challenges in Africa is getting people to take that step, to move from old mindsets, old traditional habits, and moving them to the next step. It's actually I find it quite sad, to a point of almost being pathetic, that we still use charcoal and we still use firewood. The rest of the world stopped using it donkeys years ago, 100 years ago. You know, before World War II, they stopped using coal in many of the developed countries. We're still cutting down our trees, making charcoal, you know, and inhaling all of that smoke. It really is a very, very sad situation. So we took it on upon ourselves to look at. I've always loved biogas, and I was fascinated that cow dung could make this flame. This was how I was introduced to biogas when I was a kid. And I saw the blue flame. It was absolutely amazing. Shown where it came from. I didn't believe at first that it came from just a pat of cow dung. But when I was shown the size of the actual digester, I realized, okay, there's something that has to be done here, because the digester was just too incredibly large. It's a huge, huge monstrosity, a construction of what they call the fixed dome and the floating dome systems. And I've been playing with biogas ever since, trying to develop more economical. I was actually looking at money, making the digester more economical for people to use. In the process, stumbled onto, hold on a second, why are we using cow dung? Why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? Why are our minds so fixed on cow dung, when in fact cow dung produces the least amount of biogas? Yeah, market waste and kitchen waste produce 5-6 times more gas. So we moved from focusing on animal dung for biogas, and we started focusing on the municipal waste, and this led us to town. And this is when we realized that the landfills that are such a menace, we've just copy pasted what Europe were doing. You know, we didn't think how to manage our waste. We just took what they were doing and just adopted it. Maybe it was because they started doing it in Africa during the colonial period, and we've just copied, just continued doing it. When in fact, what we've learned is that garbage, provided there's enough of it, is a massive resource. It's worth millions, and not in the form of garbage. We've stopped looking at garbage in the form as garbage. We look at it as a resource. You've got back to the circular economy. If you look at the nutrient cycle, how much money do our farmers spend every year pumping nutrients into their farms in order to get a crop. And what percentage of that ends up in being washed off by the rain into underground water reserves and into the rivers and the lakes? A huge percentage. Then we've got our food. Let's say the food came out of the ground and we eat it. Our bodies absorb some of it, the rest goes down the toilet, and when it goes down the toilet, where does it end up? Back in the rivers and the lakes. So all of that nutrient has gone into the lakes. As you said, as I heard Philip saying earlier, that 30% of the food of the world ends up going to waste. I believe in Africa, it's probably closer to 60 to 70%, because we don't have any methods, we don't have any techniques of storage. Refrigeration is totally unaffordable. Dehydration is not in our culture. We don't dry things. We dry maize and beans and rice and things like that, but we don't dry fruit and vegetables. So if you go to any market in Kenya, the biggest problem they have, the market masters, they call them, is handling the garbage, the amount of waste, the organic waste that comes out of these markets. And that ends up going to landfill. That is rich organic nutrient that came straight out of the soil. Came out of someone's wallet into gunias of, sacks of fertilizer, went into the soil, is now in the market being thrown away. And it ends up rotting it starts rotting in the market. It gets moved to a landfill where it continues rotting. All the nutrients end up, again, back in the groundwater, back in the rivers, back in the lakes. When they're in these environments, what they're doing is they're causing huge disturbance to the economies of the people who live along those rivers and lakes, because they're pollutants. Once you get those high levels of nutrient into the water, you end up with black water. And as you can see from probably all of the rivers in all of your cities, all cities basically are on rivers, by the way. And you'll see that when people first settled on a river was because people will settle where there's water. Within a very short time, a few decades, that river turns into the garbage stream. It turns into the sewage line. And almost all cities, they have black water flowing through their cities. It's no longer drinkable. That is nutrient. That is over nutrification of the rivers. So that's where our money is going. All of the money we spend on fertilizer is ending up going down into the rivers and the lakes, causing what we call pests, invasive species, water hyacinth, typha grass, Nile cabbages, all of these kind of plants that block the boats and interrupt the economics of the communities who live along the rivers. You've also got the alga blooms, which is when algae mass proliferate and suck out all of the oxygen from the water and literally suffocate all the fish, all of the marine life will die. You'll just see them floating on the surface of the water because of lack of oxygen. These problems are caused by humans. As Philip did say, we are our worst enemy. We will destroy our home without realizing it. And no one's taking responsibilities. You cannot rely on the government to clean up the rivers. You cannot rely on the government to do anything. I mean, to me, we've learned that the best way to do it is to do it yourself. If you want something done, do it yourself, because government policies, one of the advantages we have, by the way, compared to Europe, is that because we don't have a lot of policies in place where it comes to waste management, where it comes to renewable energies and what have you, we've got a playing field. We're free to play and experiment and learn and try and test and what have you. In Europe, my brother, who lives in London, lives in the UK, tells me he's not allowed to have a biogas digester. It's illegal to have a biogas digester. And I was like, hold on a second, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because they promote organic food production there. They actually train you on how to make compost bins to turn your organic waste into compost, which is good for your soil. Why can't you just seal it and put a pipe on it and use the gas? Because that's all it is. It's a compost bin that has been turned into a biogas digester. It's exactly the same process. One is in the presence of oxygen, one isn't. And it's because they don't want you to. Because if they do, then you're no longer dependent on them. Look at the power laws in Africa. We have got a situation where it is illegal for anybody in Kenya to actually, even if you put in a solar panel, it's illegal to put a wire across the fence to your own property next to it, because you don't have a power purchase agreement, or you don't have the right to distribute electricity. The monopoly that was set up during the colonial period to Kenya Power and Lighting are the only people who can do that. So even if you own both properties and the power comes from your solar panel, you're not allowed to wire across. So these policies that were put in place many years ago, they're inhibiting people from growing and developing. So the beauty in Africa is we have room to play. We can make our own policies. We are free to experiment and create new, reinvent the wheel, so to speak. And so this is where we're going with, we call it the circular economy around nutrients. Stop the nutrients getting into our freshwater reserves. Our freshwater reserves are dwindling just like our forests. We keep on polluting them. So we want to harvest all of those nutrients that are ending up in the water. In the process of harvesting, we're composting them through biogas digesters. We are getting back the methane gas, which is pure energy. It can be used for anything from driving vehicles, running generators, cooking, dehydrating food. As I said earlier, energy is the key behind any micro enterprise. So you've got all the energy you want. Then you've got all of the fertilizer, which now it was garbage going to end up in a landfill, is now a very rich organic fertilizer worth a lot of money that the farmers will be very interested in taking back to their farms. So you've got two income streams directly from that garbage, which is why I say the garbage is worth a lot of money, but it has to be in bulk because no one's going to invest in a large, what we call recycle markets, if your resource is going to run out. Yeah. So having satellites, instead of having very, very big units that will cost an arm and a leg, we're going the satellite road, which means you set up recycle markets at every market. So you're not moving garbage from one place to the other either. You're managing it where it is being produced. The gas is then being distributed directly to users who are using the charcoal or the firewood in that vicinity around the urban centers. So you're offsetting the use of charcoal and firewood, which means you are also stopping the destruction of the trees. As soon as you have somebody cooking on biogas, you've stopped them cooking on firewood, which means you're saving the forest by default. So we're not trying to plant trees. We're trying to just stop the trees. We believe that once you get the people out of the forest will regrow the same way it did naturally. So find an alternative. Yeah, find an alternative.
I want to ask you a couple of questions before I go to Sarah. I really want you to tell us a little bit as well how you see this technology evolving, because it was interesting listening to you say it started off with a fascination by a flame out of cow dung, and then you've changed. So how do you see this technology evolving, especially for commercial purposes and in terms of opportunities for job creation? Because as we said, in Africa, it's about nature, it's about people creating jobs, and it's about the business opportunities. And it was very fascinating listening to you this morning. I tweeted an interesting article I read that said that the resources we need are no longer in the ground, they are in a landfill.
Yeah.
In the West that we are filling our landfills with. So Dominic, please.
Yeah, I see the technology, basically it's at its infancy. For instance, the models that we have, the actual digester, the actual tool, we have completely changed the dynamics of, because as I said earlier, everyone believes that digesters, only cow dung could produce the energy. So now there's room, now that everyone knows actually you can produce this from anything. And looking at the kind of digesters that are in Europe, the ones being used for producing electricity and what have you, they're not very efficient compared to the technologies that we're developing here in Africa. So there's huge room for development. There's huge room for experimentation and looking at how to improve the efficiency of these digesters, how to get more gas out of your systems in a faster pace. So how to reduce the retention time is more where there is, and that's what we're doing, is we're heating up our systems to bring them to thermophilic temperatures where you get very, very high gas production. another area where it's developing is that a lot of people are not so interested in the how to make biogas, but they're interested in the energy. So there's room for entrepreneurship in investing in supplying people with energy. And because it's gas, and because we don't have any regulations about gas piping, there are regulations about moving gas in cylinder form and what have you, but there's not so much about gas piping. So within small communities, gated communities, what have you, you can very easily set up mini grid systems and have entrepreneurs owning a recycle market which has biogas digesters in it, piping gas to large volumes of houses. Another very, very interesting model that we are also trying to promote is selling gas. It's a bit profitable, but it's not very profitable. You're probably better off using the gas if you're looking at it from a business angle, is using the gas yourself to do something. So we've set up some drying machines. I can show you here. These are dried bananas. I don't know what the light is like. Yeah, but this is some of the products that we're looking at. Yeah, you can hear they're very crisp.
Yeah, we can see that. Yeah.
Yes, and then we're doing these are dried apples. I don't know if you ever tasted dried apples. They're absolutely delicious. Mangoes, pineapples. This is pixie oranges. These are lemons. But basically, you can dry anything. Now these have a shelf life of months, easily 6 months, more than 6 months. And because they are dry, we've added value to them. So you can earn a lot more from this. So we're trying to get the farmers to adopt dryers on their farm level, and they can dry what would go to waste. I mean, when you're drying using the biogas, you are cutting even the mango that's got a worm in it. You just cut out the worm bit and dry the rest of it. You don't really lose anything. And then all of the what you would call waste, the skin, the seed, and everything, you put into the digester and you recycle it. So it is a circular economy in itself, and then the fertilizer goes back to the production. So there are numerous. There's nothing you can't do with biogas. We accompany it a lot of the time with solar, because solar is also, biogas is good for heating things, and solar is very good for lighting things and running motors and these kind of things. So they accompany each other extremely well. Scaled, if you when you look at like for instance where we stay, we're virtually off grid. Only my sisters and what have you have fridges that are on grid. We use electricity. We use the grid electricity for welding, but otherwise we are 100% off grid. Our entire office is off grid. All of our cooking is off grid. So there are numerous opportunities that are available.
So Dominic, I want to get something else and bring Sarah in here, but just to highlight the important point you've made that we're talking about in the beginning, that we want to present circularity as an opportunity for nature, but also for business, for people. So yes, the point you make that this is something we can use to generate energy, but energy that we can also use to create other business enterprises in retail, drying, I mean, even a little bit of retail. I think it is important to maintain those two connections. I want to go to the issue of women, and I want to bring Sarah in here for a minute. So I want to start by introducing Sarah Chiyinji Kawesa, our third panelist, who is going to talk to us about an amazing innovation she's working on. Sarah is the CEO of a beauty company that produces synthetic hair from natural banana fiber. I was very amazed to hear that. So Sarah tells us that banana fiber natural hair extensions have a superior competitive advantage that enables them to be more flexible in terms of styling, washing, and treating. So why is this an important circularity action? Now, most people don't know that the global wig and hair extension market is expected to reach $10 billion in only 2 years, in 2023. And the demand for synthetic hair has risen so much, especially in Africa. What also most people don't know is that synthetic hair is essentially derived from ultra-fine strands of plastic, and that the petrochemical derived materials such as polyester, acrylic, and PVC are not biodegradable. They are bad for our environment. In other words, you drop that synthetic hair in a landfill, it will probably stay there a lifetime. The product Sarah produces, on the other hand, is 100% biodegradable and more user-friendly. And she says with 1 billion people produce, 1 billion farmers producing bananas in the world, there is no reason why this shouldn't be a real business. Sarah, I will let you tell us more about this, and I'll start by asking you to please tell us a little bit about your company and why you started it, and the beauty industry in Africa, and why it's important for us to move away from synthetic, which is part of large plastic industry you're trying to get rid of, to where you are. Sarah, please, you're very welcome. Sarah, you're muted. Please unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Very good. Yes, go on.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rose, for that generous introduction. My company, which I'm heading, is and I'm a co-founder of that company, is Biodixo Limited. It's actually a holding company which has so many different bio products, especially when it comes to farmers and adding value to products of agriculture and protecting environment. The focus today is mainly about the biodegradable natural hair. That hair, we started a research looking at what others are doing in Japan, India. They are actually getting textile from banana fiber. And Uganda is the third growing country in banana. And we actually grow up to almost like 1.5 billion tons of banana plantation. But Uganda, we're throwing away the soda stem without knowing that actually the soda stem is very, very important for generating extra incomes for farmers, for banana farmers. And also it can introduce about over 10 industries if using the same raw material. So we started testing different species of banana being grown in Uganda, and then testing the strengths, whether it could actually support the textile industry. During that process, we realized that the strands are actually very good and very, very wrong. So we said, why don't we also look into other products rather than just focusing on the textile, because others are doing textile. So we could also look into other areas of production. So we came across ways of processing the banana fiber, softening it, and then making sure that the strands are actually acceptable for ladies wearing wig. And the focus was looking at how is the synthetic hair affecting our soils, affecting our water resources, because as you mentioned that people are collecting plastic, like plastic bottles, plastic bags, but no one is collecting the synthetic hair. So it's left in the fields to rot. It doesn't rot actually. It can take over 500. I don't think there's ever been a plastic that has rotted in probably 1,000 years, because it doesn't rot. So we said, okay, how can we help the environment if we reduce the use of synthetic hair? Because looking at the researchers, other researchers, they looked at areas where Africans, especially African ladies, are more into beautifying themselves. And one of the areas they're looking at is not just the skin, but the hair. And our African hair is not that very good for acceptance for the others when they're looking at beauty. So we end up wearing synthetic hair. And we've reached up to 7 billion investments in ladies. They've invested in $7 billion in beauty products, but almost like 70% of that is synthetic hair. So that means that we are actually the main polluters of our soil and our environment, because we don't think about the environment and the health-wise, where synthetic hair is actually very dangerous for our skin, can cause cancer as well. So we thought about bringing in alternative product which is more acceptable, biodegradable, easy to shampoo and wear. You don't need to go under dryer. If you wash your biodegradable hair, you just let it dry, comb it, and then style it anyhow you want, and then put it back on your head. So that is where we thought that we need to do something about protecting our environment. We started producing biodegradable natural hair. Our brand name is called Reni, Royal Natural Hair Extensions. And ladies have picked up interest in wearing our hair. We have our super dealers in Australia, we have UK, we have in America. They also picked up the interest in the biodegradable hair, and that's where we are at the moment. And we looking at other ways of promoting the banana plantation, because it is very good plant which can consume a lot of carbon dioxide. Because of its wide leaves, and it is also a food. So you can't just use the land to grow hair. But this one, if you take off food, then the waste, which you call waste, is what actually used to produce hair. And you can use it to produce other products like fiberglass. You can do sanitary towels. You can do Mercedes-Benz are actually using it for making bumpers and other products. You can use it, so many things you can produce using the same raw material. So using banana plantation in terms of combating the carbon dioxide is actually very, very important, because one banana plantation can consume CO2 of 5 trees. So if actually you're looking at Uganda, if we look at Uganda only, Uganda is producing 1.5 million tons of bananas. So that means those bananas plantation can consume over 2.25 tons of carbon dioxide a year, which is very, very good. And if the worldwide we also start growing and promoting banana plantation, we could reduce carbon dioxide by 375 tons a year, which is very good. And also coming back to the hair is actually helping a lot our rural farmers, especially women, in starting up their social enterprises, because this is extra income, so they're not actually depending on husbands to give them money which they get from the fruits, but they can also be involved, fully involved in creating their own social enterprises. Very good. Youth are also currently involved in extracting banana fiber, because they just realized that even if Biodixo does not take or buy the fiber from them, they can also use it to create other things like crafts, chairs, sanitary towels, paper. So it's actually highlighted a lot of many ways of generating income for families who are actually involved in banana plantation. So we are actually encouraging ladies to make sure that they don't just look at beauty, they look at protecting the environment and also looking at areas where they can generate income using the same raw material of banana plantation.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I have one more question for you, but I really was very intrigued by something that you said that is very important for the work we do at the Climate Technology Center, what we call indigenous technologies. The fact that you got an existing technology, they were extracting fiber out of these banana trees anyway, and you modified it, you know, produce other types of fibers that are relevant, something that African women use for the beauty industry, which is hair. So I think it speaks to the point of us being innovative, that we don't always have to reinvent the wheel, that there are technologies we can adapt for business and industry, but also use that, you know, for products that are sitting within our communities. And that is really a great message that you bring. But also that as a business venture, it's got multiple benefits. So it's hair, but we also know it's cloth fiber. We also know it's all kinds of fiber now that is being used in luxury goods by companies like Mercedes-Benz. And I think those are very important points you make. So for the point on circularity that we make, and then of course the emission benefits. All countries now, at least 197 countries around the world, have made commitments under the Paris Agreement, including Uganda, where you come from, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So this goes a long way. I hope you've brought this to the attention of the government in contributing to its commitments to meeting the Paris Agreement commitments it made. One more question for you, Sarah. Please tell us, the beauty industry in Africa, how can we make women more conscious of the decisions they make? Because one of the campaigns we are running globally in Europe is to make people more conscious. Dominic talked about our consumption productions when it comes to food and food waste. Now you will talk to us about choices we make in cosmetic products and beauty products as women, which is one of the largest global industries in the world. Do you want to comment on that, please?
Okay. One area I've realized when we're doing the research and introducing the biodegradable natural hair, first of all, women in Africa are actually not aware of the environmental impacts of what they're doing. So there's more awareness which is needed to actually bring it to these people, because all they are thinking about is beauty. But we need to enforce policies which actually going to make these ladies realize that some of our actions we do actually affecting our environment, affecting our health, is also affecting our future generations. It's like Europe, they put pressure on plastic pollution, whereby they set up that by 2030, they are going to reduce all the single use of plastic. That means the hair, the synthetic hair is also coming out of the market because it's also plastic and it's a single use. So we need to, in Africa, to enforce such policies and then make sure that products like biodegradable natural hair are becoming more affordable to our people, because our disposable income is not that good. And currently, the biodegradable natural hair is a bit expensive because we are doing manual extraction. So it will be not fair to tell the people that stop using synthetic hair when the alternative is not actually affordable. So we need to work with policymakers and governments to make sure that we go into mass production of biodegradable natural hair or products which are coming out like biodegradable sanitary towels, because that is one of the product we are bringing on the market. We're using banana fiber to make banana cotton, and then we use banana fiber to make cloth. So we need to work with policymakers and governments to make sure that we go into mass production of biodegradable natural hair or products which are coming out like biodegradable sanitary towels, because that is one of the product we are bringing on the market. We're using banana fiber to make banana cotton, and then we use use the cassava plastic as the plastic. So it's within 2 weeks or 3 to be actually biodegraded. So policymakers and NGOs and government institutions, they also need to come on board to make sure that they work with private companies like ours to enforce these new policies and ensuring that our people actually, they are not affected by taking away what makes them happy, but they have affordable alternative products which can actually support their beauty. At the same time, we need to involve women in producing these products. Especially now, what we do, we go around in banana plantation farmers. We go and train them in extracting fiber, and then we teach them different products which can come out of the raw material, even if they don't go into making hair, because it's involving a lot of processes. But there are some low-hanging fruits products they can actually get out of that. If they get money, that means they can also afford to buy other stuff which are useful for their health and also for the environment. So ladies have started extracting, they've started making basketry products. They are also making
I'm afraid we've lost Sarah there a little bit.
Household cooperatives. So
yeah, Sarah, we lost you a little bit, but that's all right. I don't know if I could ask our technical team in the background if it is possible to get, we've got several questions from the participants, if we can get one to ask live, and then we'll also respond to the others in the chat. Is that possible to unmute one of the participants online who would like to ask a question? But in the meantime, we do have some questions here.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please, Dominic, go on. And we have a question for you.
Okay, Sarah, I'm very, very intrigued by your innovation. It's quite incredible. I love the idea of that recycling of the banana plants. I've always looked at banana plants as what a waste. You're sucking up all of this nutrient from the ground and you're left with a banana bunch this size, and the tree that's 100 times that size goes to waste. No, it gets thrown away. Nice to see you're doing something with the fiber. My question is, do you buy from because I'm sure a lot of people would love to be able to sell their fiber if they knew how to do like a raw preparation and then send it to you dry and lightweight, where you could then do the finishing.
Oh yeah, we do.
From other...
We do. Actually, we've been going around training ladies, especially, and youth in extracting, using local means of extracting those fiber from the soda stem. And then we tell them exactly, because different products need different species of banana plantation. So for the hair, there's a species which we use. So we also tell them that this species, we can buy them for hair. Another species can produce banana fiber, which is actually good for fiberglass. Another one will be used for making piece could actually, you could process it and then making it yarn. So definitely we do, but the challenges we are facing, people don't have money to buy the machines, even if it's locally fabricated. They need support, and some of them are asking if we could provide credit for these machines. So what we're looking at, if banks actually start believing in our products, they could actually give loans for those banana farmers, and then get money or when they sell their fiber. So they are so much interested in earning that extra money, but they don't have support in terms of getting machines, which we are also facing the same challenge we are facing, because we would love to fully automate our processes, but we don't have funds yet to make easy extraction and efficiency. So we're still hanging around and asking banks if they can join us in creating these so many industries and creating jobs for our people, for our communities.
Thank you very much, Sarah. We've received a lot of complimentary comments and questions from the participants for both experiences that have been shared by Dominic and Pat and Sarah. And Philip, there was real appreciation for contextualizing and bringing to life a conversation that often sounds far-fetched when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, what it really boils down to. And I think part of it is how we communicate this to our people so that we encourage uptake of these new innovative approaches. So as we wind down, I want to give each of you a couple of minutes to have a few remarks to close down. Can I start with you, Philip, please?
Thank you so much. I mean, it's been a fascinating conversation, and the more I've listened to the panelists, the more, I mean, to Dominic's point that we are still using coal. I mean, and I use my revolution lens, it means that a majority of the continent is still in the first industrial revolution. So how do we ensure that we quickly transition to the fourth industrial revolution? But also his pathway around an energy source that is very much abundant in Africa. It means that we do not necessarily have to be very linear in our thinking around how the revolutions went, to the extent that then we can simply modernize and harness what is abundant. And think about energy in Africa. The sun is abundant, so we do not necessarily have to be so resource intensive in terms of trying to aping or mimicking the West, but potentially how do we modernize with what we have and what is abundant, right? And to the extent that we still preserve and conserve nature. So I think for me that was interesting. I think from the other part of Sarah is to the extent of how do we also ensure that we can yes use what is available natural, but then harness the fourth industrial revolution, whether it's data, whether it's aggregation, whether it's being smart around artificial intelligence, whether it's being able to pull and scale, because I think scale is the key. How are you able to scale while at the same time not destroying the environment or being, yeah. So I think for me that really are my parting words. Then it's to the extent also that how do we also ensure that we are responsible? And I think for me the responsibility is always ensuring that even as much as we are in the fourth industrial revolution, harnessing the circular economy, how do we ensure that we do not bring in the challenges of the other revolutions around inequality? And so how do we ensure that there's a place for everybody and that we're leaving no one behind? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Philip. You've touched on something absolutely important, inclusion and equality. We are being hosted here by the Network of African Women Environmentalists, and one of the things that we really seek to ensure happens is inclusion of all in our society and these economic opportunities in the fourth industrial revolution so that we have a more equitable development agenda. So thank you for raising that issue. Dominic, a couple of minutes to wrap up with a few thoughts, please.
Okay, well, thanks again for this opportunity. Yes, I am intrigued and very happy that other people are also focusing on working with what you have and not relying on what's in the West and not saying, well, you know, we have to copy the West, whatever. We've got to think outside the box in Africa. It's the only way we're going to develop. What works for Europe and for the States and for developed countries works for them. It's not what necessarily has to work for us. We have the resources at our fingertips. It's just how do we materialize them? How do we turn them into economy? 90% of what we do is it's actually women related because it's energy, and women are, especially at a domestic and a rural level, they are the workhorses of the society. they're the ones that we should focus on becoming entrepreneurial. We had a situation in Kenya where we have almost a whole generation of women who didn't go to school because our former political regime had a cost sharing, and men decided that they couldn't afford to put all their kids in school, so they only put the boys in school. So we've got a whole generation of women who have not gone to go to school. Once they get off collecting firewood, they're stuck in a void. They don't know what to do with their time because they don't have skills, they don't have education. So we need to focus on them. We need to focus on getting these appropriate technology skills, turning fiber from the different plants, banana being one of them, into. I love the idea when she said that she's making not just hair, but she's also doing the ladies' pads, and she's doing diapers, and she's also doing fiberglass. Well, banana fiber. It's not fiberglass. It's fiber banana. Sheets of. I mean, that is intriguing because that's building material. I mean, there is so much room for stuff to happen. We are technology gadgetry basis. Our company comes from that background, so we make huge a number of different kinds of tools, not just biogas and solar. So I would very, very be interested in talking to Sarah, or other people who are developing technologies or solutions to challenges in their area. We can help to make the tools because that's what we do. We're very good at making gadgets. So again, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dominic. I think you've mentioned something very important as well for the experience you shared on biogas. The reason we're very interested in having you is that people may not realize this, but we still have at least 600 Africans living on the African continent without access to power. And so to be able to have a technology that allows us to have access to power off grid, that is that accessible, is very important. It's absolutely important. And so just to make the point that technologies such as the ones you're working with and are seeking to promote in Kenya and across the continent are absolutely important. Sarah, last minutes, please, closing remarks and anything else you'd like us to take away from this.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank you, our moderators, and the interest you've picked in our products, especially the banana hair. And I would like to encourage ladies to start looking at wearing banana hair, because it's actually helping our environment, it's helping our healthy, and maybe also getting fully involved in farming, because if you have 5 acres of plantation, lady husband take care of the fruit, but you as a lady and the youth at home get involved in extracting fiber from banana soda stream, because that's extra income rather than feeding it to the animals that they're doing at the moment. When you're extracting the fiber, you collect that water, which you can still feed your animals, and you can collect the other waste and make other products. You can also make briquettes. You can so that you don't actually go and look for firewoods. Those briquettes are actually very good. They can last 4 to 5 hours using them for cooking. You can do other stuff if you're looking for work, because some women are not educated to actually get paid jobs in corporate jobs, but they can create their own jobs by actually focusing on extraction of fiber and making different products. So currently, we're looking at a synergy, like Dominic say, if he's very good in making gadgets or those machines, which can help women in joining the extraction of fiber, because if we start making them locally here, they actually will be a bit cheaper and they'll be affordable for those ladies who are interested in joining the fight for the climate change. We're also encouraging firms to come on board and help us in terms of funding so that we can increase our production and reduce the cost of the production, the price of the hair, because that is where the problem is at the moment. Everybody would love to wear something which is healthy protection and environmental protection, but the price is still high because everything is done manually. So if we get people to join force and help us in getting those machines which can help in the automation of the production, that would be very good. And we're also encouraging those who are into research to join us, because there's a lot of other things we are looking at. And because I'm a self-taught researcher, I would love to work with others into more technology-based ideas whereby we can improve on our products.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you very much, Dominic, and thank you very much, Philip. This has been an incredibly inspiring and educational discussion. We have got a lot of interest, people who are interested in connecting with you. So fortunately, we've got everybody's email. We are going to kind of be matchmakers, and I hope you will allow us to share your contacts with some of them, because we think it's very useful. The other thing I want to say is that for the Climate Technology Center and Network, we do get requests from private sector, small medium enterprises like yours, and even research institutions, but they must come through government. One of the things we do is support systems of national innovation, to take innovations such as the ones you're doing to scale them up, provide opportunities for business matchmaking with companies in developed countries that would be willing to invest in your business, for example, Dominic or Sarah. So one, I want you to encourage, please connect with us at the CTCN. We would like to connect you with our government counterparts in the respective countries and then see how we can make that happen. Because one of the things that we do, as I said, Sarah, for your business, for example, the government can facilitate a business matchmaking. There will be a company, Mercedes, that needs your product, or somebody else that would be willing to invest in that. And that is something governments can facilitate. So lastly, so please do check on the ctcn.org website or send an email and we'll send you that. Lastly, I want to thank the Network of African Women Environmentalists and the United Nations Environment Programme for giving us this opportunity to discuss today. This webinar is under the Earth Cafe Science series run by the Network of African Women Environmentalists. And as the name suggests, it's to connect science to policy, as you've seen, innovative approaches, the technological and scientific approaches to the policies, how do we work and scale them up, and link them to the big global agendas, such as what Philip talked about, and the global opportunities. We may sit in our little corners in Kenya or wherever we are, but in fact, we are part of a big global community that is engaged in circularity. It's big business, it's good for the environment, and it's good for all of us. So that is something we should stay engaged in. So please do check out the Nawe website. It is nawe, nawe.org. Or if you go to the UN Environment Programme, you'll find the landing page specifically for Nawe, and there's lots of information. Participants, thank you very much for taking the time once again to join us. Please stay in touch. You will receive an email. Dr. Sheila, who is the convener of these wonderful webinars, she's got lots of information. You received an email from her when you're registering, and she'll be able to connect you to everybody and provide you all the information that you need. Thank you, Sheila, for doing this and putting together a wonderful program. Thank you, our panelists. Thank you, our participants. Goodbye. This is it for us today.